Hello, my name is Marni Bowen, and I'm a fiber artist. I've not always been a fiber artist. Painting and printmaking were my loves. They are still my loves, and much of my work, there's almost all the fabric that I use in my work is either painted or monoprinted. Most of what you will see today is monoprinting, and monoprinting is probably one of the oldest forms of printmaking there is. In the caves of Lascaux, 67,000 years ago, when the Neanderthals were putting pigment on their palm and then putting their palm on the wall, that is actually a form of monoprinting, by putting pigment or paint on a surface and then impressing it on another surface. And that's as simple as monoprinting gets. Monoprinting comes in many forms. It could be as simple as a wet shoe print on a dry piece of pavement. And I find that monoprinting, I love commercial fabrics, but I love the idea of making the fabric my own, so that the base layer of my pieces are a work of my own unto itself. Sometimes I will take commercial fabric and I will augment it, but most of what is in this particular show are pieces that are wholly monoprinted from beginning to end. And then there's much hand stitching, some fabric fusing, embroidery, beads, and anything else I can find. One piece, I made some copper circles, which leads me to circles. Circles are my muse these days, for many, many reasons, but most of the work that I've been doing lately has been based on microscopic worlds. Not precisely, but mostly microscopic world. So, yeah, the circle is just, I don't know, it's just my kindred spirit at the moment. And I find it in many places that you don't think about the circle, but it's everywhere. This piece is called Legend. It is actually all monoprinted with the exception of much of the hand stitching. We have cotton threads, there's embroidery, there's pearl cotton, and all of this is free motion hand stitching on the machine. And the background here is 2 layers of monoprinting, a gold and a blue, and this yellow area is actually silk, which I've monoprinted and then laid on top, and then done all of this hand stitching, 1 to anchor it and 2 to give it some transition from there to the background. And there's also another technique, which is pretty much the way I work. I will start printing and go, hey, what would happen if I did this? And then the next thing I know, I'm down a rabbit hole and I'm printing and checking out where this idea goes until I've either run it into the ground or I've determined that this is something I really want to do, and then I will, concentrate on doing that. Or I'll just go, this is going nowhere, and immediately realize, okay, I've had enough playing, let's get back to working. But it's probably not easy to see, but this area of shadowing here is a fusible web, which is sticky on both sides. And I actually put it down on the printing plate with a very fine layer of paint. So it has come up brown because when you buy it, it's only white. And I realized, oh, I can actually get that shadowing by painting it and then fusing it to the surface. And that sort of, because it's a random non-woven, sticky interface, and you just use an iron. So that was a very happy discovery. These are examples of a basic monoprint. On my block, this is a much smaller version of that size block. I used the brayer and I inked up the block, and then I just basically went and made dimples to make a texture. And I just wanted to show you the difference between what happens with printing black on a white fabric and printing white on a black fabric. I have done printing over pre-printed fabric to make it my own. Here is an example of taking a big wad of string, heavy thread, and pushing it into the paint, and it pulls away and then leaves the mark, which sort of looks like a bunch of spaghetti. Another example is using, believe this was a tiny rubber spatula, and removing the paint so that the white comes through and then leaves big areas of paint. So we'll do a little monoprinting. It doesn't take very much paint. All you need, I like to use these because, as it says, it's open, which means that the paint will not dry out very quickly. So, you need a brayer, a printing. This is called a jelly plate. And so we will put a little paint on there of one color, maybe a little bit more. Open these up, put a little color on the other side, and then we will see if I got enough paint. I slightly roll to the left and then to the right, which allows the colors to blend. So I could print that just as it is, but we'll go through and I will make some dots. And then I have a piece of fabric which is ready, they call ready for dye. You can use any fabric, but if you're going to use cotton fabric from the store that's not what they call PFD, prepared for dye, you need to wash it because there's sizing in the fabric which will keep the paint from sticking to it. So we'll do an eyeball registration and then applying overall pressure, trying not to move the fabric on top of it. And let's see if the magic has happened. And voila, I'm on a print.